All right, you tech-hungry nerds, strap in for this one. We're going deep into the primordial soup of computer science this time, before Windows, before iPhones. Hell, before most people even knew what a computer was.
That's messy.
Oh, it is, my friend. It is.
Hmm.
We're talking about this book that was basically the Bible for early programmers, you know,
Oh, yeah, I know this one.
a commentary on the 6th edition UNIX operating system, better known as
The Lion's Book.
the Lion's Book. That's the one. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. A book about code sounds about as exciting as watching grass grow. But trust me, this shit's got more drama than a Kardashian family reunion.
More drama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking forbidden knowledge, corporate bullshit, and a bunch of rogue programmers who said, screw the rules, we want to learn.
Those are my kind of people.
So let's cut the crap. What the hell is UNIX, and why should we give a damn about some ancient code from the 70s?
Well, to understand UNIX, you got to understand what an operating system is. Imagine your computer's like a car. You got the engine, the wheels, the transmission, all these different parts.
All those moving parts, yeah.
The operating system is like the brain that coordinates all those parts, telling them what to do and how to do it.
Okay, so it's like the conductor of an orchestra making sure all the instruments are playing in sync.
Exactly. Now, back in the 70s, UNIX was this revolutionary new operating system. It was elegant, efficient, and it laid the groundwork for pretty much every operating system we use today.
Makes you wonder if they knew what they were starting back then.
Right.
All right, so UNIX was a big deal. But why? All the secrecy. Why was this Lion's Book considered forbidden knowledge?
Because AT&T, the company that owned UNIX, was incredibly protective of their code. They treated it like the recipe for Coca-Cola locked away in a vault. Programmers were desperate to get their hands on the UNIX source code, the human-readable instructions that tell the computer what to do, but AT&T wouldn't let them.
Wait, so they were basically hoarding this knowledge. What kind of bullshit is that?
It was a power move, pure and simple. They wanted to maintain control over UNIX and prevent anyone from creating competing systems.
So how did this Lyons guy get his hands on the code? Did he break into AT&T headquarters Mission Impossible style?
Not quite. John Lyons was a professor in Australia, and he managed to obtain a copy of the UNIX source code through some back channels. He was fascinated by it and decided to write a commentary explaining every line, every function, every little detail. This commentary became known as the Lion's Book.
So he was like the Indiana Jones of computer science, deciphering the secrets of this forbidden text.
Exactly. And just like the Ark of the Covenant, AT&T didn't want anyone messing with their precious code. They tried to suppress the Lion's Book, claiming it violated their copyright.
Hold on, they tried to ban a goddamn book about computer code. That's some next-level control freak shit.
Right. It's crazy. And you know what's even crazier? There's this famous line in the UNIX code that became a sort of inside joke among programmers. You are not expected to understand this.
Wait, what the fuck? They're just straight up admitting the code is incomprehensible.
Well, not exactly. It was more like a warning, a sign that you were entering a particularly complex and difficult section of the code. But it definitely added to the mystique of UNIX and the Lion's Book.
So did anyone actually understand this cryptic code? Or were they all just staring at it like monkeys trying to figure out a Rubik's Cube?
Some brilliant minds did manage to crack the code, and the Lion's Book was their Rosetta Stone. They'd gather in secret, huddled over photocopied pages, trying to decipher the inner workings of UNIX.
Sounds like a scene from a hacker movie.
Cool.
So who are these badass code breakers? Give us some names.
One of the most notable was Andrew Tannenbaum, a professor who was so pissed off by AT&T's secrecy that he created his own operating system called UNIX.
So this Tannenbaum guy was like, fine, if you won't share your code, I'll just make my own damn operating system.
Pretty much. And get this, UNIX was heavily inspired by what Tannenbaum learned from the Lion's Book.
So this book wasn't just some dry technical manual. It actually inspired people to create new things, to push the boundaries of computer science.
Exactly. The Lion's Book played a crucial role in the development of operating systems and the open source movement, which is all about sharing knowledge and collaborating on code.
Damn. So this seemingly boring book about computer code was actually a catalyst for a revolution in the tech industry.
Yeah.
That's some serious butterfly effect shit.
Absolutely. It shows how even the most technical and obscure stuff can have a huge impact on the world.
All right, let's take a quick piss break and then dive back into this crazy story. We'll explore how this book went from being a forbidden text to a celebrated classic and uncover some more juicy details about the early days of UNIX. So before we took that leak, we were talking about the Lions book, this forbidden text that basically exposed the guts of the UNIX operating system.
Right, and it wasn't just some dry technical manual. This shit was like reading the minds of the dudes who created UNIX, like peering over their shoulders as they wrote the code.
So we're talking about Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie,
Yeah.
the rock stars of the computer science world.
The OGs.
These guys were like the Beatles of code, right?
Exactly. And what's really cool about the Lions book is that it includes their original comments from the source code. So you get these little insights into their thought processes, their struggles, even their sense of humor.
Wait, these legendary programmers had a sense of humor. I always pictured them as these super serious dudes hunched over their keyboards, chugging Mountain Dew and speaking in binary code.
Nah. They were brilliant, but also human. They'd throw in these witty remarks in the code, little jokes that only other programmers would get.
Okay, give us an example. Spill the beans.
All right, here's one. In the section of code that deals with shutting down the system, there's a comment that simply says, "Good night, sweet prince."
That's awesome. It's like they knew this code was going to be legendary, a masterpiece of computer science.
Right. It's these little details that make the Lions book so special. It's not just about the code itself. It's about the people who wrote it, their personalities, their quirks. It humanizes the whole thing.
So this book was basically a love letter to UNIX,
Yeah.
written by a dude who was clearly obsessed with this operating system.
Yeah. John Lyons was a true believer. He saw the beauty and elegance of UNIX, and he wanted to share that with the world. He wanted other people to understand and appreciate it, even if AT&T didn't.
But AT&T was like, nope, this is a precious little secret. You can't share it with anyone. What a bunch of dicks.
Yep, they were trying to control the flow of information, keep UNIX as their proprietary product.
Which is totally fucked up, considering that UNIX was built on the work of so many other programmers. It's like they were trying to erase history and claim it all for themselves.
That's the irony of it all. UNIX was a collaborative effort, a product of the open exchange of ideas. But then AT&T tried to shut down that very spirit of collaboration.
So what happened? Did the Lions book stay underground forever? Did these code warriors have to meet in secret societies, passing around photocopies like they were some kind of ancient scroll?
Thankfully not. After years of pressure from the programming community, AT&T finally caved and allowed the book to be officially published.
Hallelujah. So this forbidden knowledge finally saw the light of day. Did people throw parties in the streets? Were there fireworks and parades?
It was a pretty big deal in the programming world. In 1996, the book was re-released and programmers rejoiced, students devoured it, and it became a classic of computer science literature.
That's a happy ending if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
So this book went from being photocopied in secret to being sold on Amazon. What a journey.
Right. It's a testament to the persistence of the programming community and the power of open knowledge. You can't keep a good idea down forever.
All right, so we've talked about the history of the Lions book, the drama, the secrets, the impact on the open source movement. But let's get down to brass tacks. What can we actually learn from this book today? Is it just a historical curiosity, or is there still some value in it for modern programmers?
Even though the code itself is outdated, the principles behind it are still relevant. The Lions book teaches you about good coding practices, elegant design, and the importance of understanding how things work at a fundamental level.
So it's like a masterclass in software engineering, taught by the pioneers of the field, like studying the works of the old masters in painting or sculpture.
Exactly. It's like seeing how the greats did it, understanding their techniques and their philosophy. It can really deepen your understanding of software development, even if you're working with modern languages and tools.
And it's not just for programmers, right? Even if you're not a techie, you can still appreciate the beauty and complexity of the UNIX operating system.
Absolutely. It's like taking a peek under the hood of a car or looking at the blueprints of a building. You get a glimpse into the inner workings of the machines that run our world.
All right, so the Lions book is a historical artifact, a programming manual, and a work of art all rolled into one. That's pretty impressive for a book about goddamn computer code.
It is. It's a reminder that even in the world of technology, there's a human story to be told. A story of innovation, collaboration, and the pursuit of knowledge. And sometimes that story involves a bit of rebellion and a whole lot of passion.
Okay, so what about that infamous line in the code? You are not expected to understand this. What's the deal with that? Was it just some kind of mind game to mess with programmers?
Well, it turns out there's a funny story behind that.
I knew there had to be.
Let's hear it. Dennis Ritchie, one of the creators of UNIX, later explained that it wasn't meant to be a challenge or a discouragement. It was more like a professor saying, don't worry about this part, it won't be on the exam.
Huh. So they were just messing with people, like, hey, look at this super complicated code we wrote. Bet you can't figure it out.
Kind of. But it also highlights the complexity of the code. Even the guys who wrote it were like, Yeah, this part is pretty gnarly.
So it's like a badge of honor for programmers who can actually decipher that section of the code.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so badass, I understand the part that even the creators thought was too complex.
Exactly. It's like the ultimate test of your UNIX knowledge.
Right, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on one more thing.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the technical aspects of the Lions book, but what about its cultural significance? What does this book tell us about the early days of computing? What was the vibe back then?
That's a great question. The Lion's Book is a window into a time when computing was still this wild frontier, a playground for hackers and dreamers. It was a time of incredible innovation and experimentation when people were pushing the boundaries of what was possible with computers.
So it was like the Wild West of technology with cowboys coding instead of shooting guns?
Exactly. There was this sense of excitement, of pushing boundaries, of creating something new and amazing, and the Lion's Book captured that spirit perfectly.
It was like a map to this uncharted territory, guiding programmers on their adventures in the world of code.
Right. It captured the rebelliousness, the ingenuity, the thirst for knowledge that defined that era.
All right, we could probably ramble on about this shit for hours, but I think we've covered the main points. So let's wrap up this deep dive with a final thought for our listeners. All right, so we've journeyed back to the dawn of UNIX, explored some forbidden knowledge, and uncovered the human stories behind the code.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway here? What should our listeners be stuffing into their brainfuls after all this?
I think the Lion's Book reminds us that technology is never just about ones and zeros. It's about people, their ideas, their passions, their quirks. It's about this constant push to understand, to create, to share. And sometimes it's about saying screw you to the powers that be and sharing knowledge even when they try to keep it locked up.
Damn, that's deep, man. So next time we fire up our laptops, we should remember those rebellious programmers who fought for open knowledge. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, man. Those guys were the real MVPs.
Absolutely. Every time you click a button, open an app, or browse the web, you're interacting with a legacy that stretches back to those early days of UNIX and the people who dared to dream of a more open and collaborative world of technology.
So let's raise a glass to John Lyons, the dude who dared to dissect the sacred code and share it with the world. And to all those code warriors who fought for the freedom to learn and explore, they paved the way for the amazing technology we have today.
Cheers to that.
All right, you beautiful bastards. That's our deep dive for today. Go forth and be less ignorant. Peace out.